I don't know if that helps. I hope you guys enjoyed this quick little video. Probably not quick. Probably not quick.
How much do you guys want to murder me trying to watch this video right now?
Which I am, because it's a day to do. Hi everybody, it's Audrey and welcome back to Chapter and Converse. And welcome to the Leap Year book tag video. And happy leap year, because that's the day that this is getting posted. So I saw this video on Krista from Books and Jams channel, and I decided that I was going to hop on it and do a tag video, because if you guys have followed me for a while, you know I love a tag video, but I haven't actually done one in a while. And I realized I haven't kind of posted a video in a little bit, but here we are. Happy leap year. And if you are a leap year baby, I actually had a boss whose wife was born on leap year, which I always thought was like probably such a bummer when you were a kid, and probably as an adult too. So if there's any leap year babies out there, happy birthday to you also. But let's jump into the tag, just a couple of questions, and we will just get to it. Question number one is an extra day. What is one book that's brought something a little extra? So if you have been following me for a long time, this will come as no surprise to you. Where did I put it? I picked Beartown by Frederick Bachman. And I read this book last January, and this was one of those books that BookTube made me do it 100%. People were talking about it, people were raving about it, people were raving about Frederick Bachman. Had never even heard of this book before, never thought twice about it, even when people were talking about it. And I finally caved, and I would definitely rank this as one of the best books I have ever read, ever. And it was one of my top books of last year because I couldn't pick. But this is a book that, on the surface, I would say doesn't even give a hint of how moving and deep and important and powerful and frightening and necessary of a book that this is. And this is a book about a very small hockey town in Sweden, and the only thing basically this town has going for it is its hockey team, and everybody lives, dies, breathes for hockey. And the team is going to the championships. There is a party one night, and the captain of the hockey team rapes the daughter of the hockey manager, general manager, I want to say he is. And that moment literally divides a town. It divides the people. It is a huge commentary on believing the victim, on victim blaming, on victim shaming, on coming forward of fear and strength and retaliation, and there's violence, and it's just, I didn't know what to expect from this book out of the gate, but the amount that I got out of this was just mind-blowing. And you add to that some of the most incredible writing I have ever read in my entire life, some of the best characters I have ever seen. Team Benji, 100%, cannot rave about him enough. But this is one of those books that I just think it's like life-altering. It is what it was for me. It's the gift that keeps on giving. There is a sequel to it, which I loved. I will be rereading this book. I had originally gotten it out of the library, so this is like my pristine, I haven't even begun to annotate this book, but all that and so much more. Question number two is take a big leap. And that is, what is one book that you are afraid of or were afraid to read? And I went with books I am afraid to read. And I was looking on my shelf, and there's actually a couple of them that scare me for different reasons. And again, if you've been following me for a while, the first book I'm picking, which I still haven't read yet, and I know it's just, I've got no excuse, but I could give you 100 excuses. And it's If We Were Villains by ML Rio. And I have psyched myself up for this book. I have hyped up this book. This is supposed to be secret history-ish. This is a group of friends, and my understanding is opening pages, one of the friends is getting out of jail for murder. And the detective on the case kind of never, I think, quite believed that he was maybe the killer or the soul killer. And I believe they sort of go back in time and piece together what happened. And I am desperate to read this book, but I am scared to read this book because A, I'm in the worst reading slump I have ever been in for as long as I can remember. And B, like I said, I've overhyped this book to the ends of the earth, and I'm afraid that it's not going to live up to it, and I'm afraid to read it when I'm in a crappy mode because I'm afraid that's going to impact the book. So it scares me to death because I don't want to not love this, and I'm afraid I'm going to ruin a really good book. And then another one that I'm scared of for a completely different reason is Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter. And I bought this book at Thriller Fest a few years back when Karen Slaughter was there, and it's one of those, like any writing conference or reading conference or any kind of conference you've been to, the panelists are always giving recommendations about books. And this book came up as a huge recommendation for Thriller fans. I had never read Karen Slaughter before. At this stage, this bookmark is only here just because it was in the book when I bought it. I haven't actually read this at all. I have read one Karen Slaughter book at this stage of the game, and it was tremendous. But my fear about this book is everyone who has read this, whose reviews I listen to, while they say they love it and it's incredible, they also give you so many trigger warnings, cautions about the violence, and I think sort of the graphic nature of the violence and the gratuitous violence. And that was definitely in, did I read The Good Daughter? Isn't that awful? It was in the Karen Slaughter book I read. Like she doesn't shy away from it. And I mean, more power to her because she writes what she writes, and she's an incredible writer and an incredible storyteller. And it's not there for shock value, but I'm afraid of it because listening to like Sarah from Sarah's Nightstand or April from Getting Hooked with It, who are both be like, this is some of the most graphic violence I've ever read in a book. But they both rave about Karen Slaughter and about this book. So I really want to read it, but I'm scared of it. Question number 3 is every 4 years. And that is, what is the 4th book that you read this year? So I cheated and looked ahead before I started filming the video. And the 4th book I read this year is Dare Me by Megan Abbott. And I actually listened to the audiobook of this. And I talked about this in my January wrap-up video. But when the TV show adaptation came out on USA, I watched the first episode and then I went back and wanted to read the book. The only thing I could get automatically was the audiobook, but the audiobook was great. And I loved this. And I still haven't done a standalone video on this, which I said I was going to do. TV show to book, which I think I'm just gonna wait till the show's over. There's only, I think, 1 or 2 more weeks of it, and they are hugely different. But I loved the book more than the show so far. And it is a book that, when I say the description, it's gonna sound not as incredible as it is, in the sense that it's like, it follows a high school cheerleading squad, and a new coach comes into town. And it is about the impact that coach has on the team, the dynamics between the girls, 2 in particular, Beth and Addie. And Beth is top girl, captain. Addie is sort of her right-hand woman, has always been by her side, her lieutenant, if you will. And it is about how the dynamic between the 2 of them shift when Colette, who's the coach, comes into town, and how she impacts the girls. And then it is also sort of this very dark, gritty look, not just at cheerleading as a sport and the competition and sort of the lengths the girls will go to, but also a really dark look at female friendships. But I think an authentic look at female friendships, especially at that age. And I thought it was so well done. There is an element of mystery to it. So you know somebody dies, and there is sort of a mystery of what happens there and how it impacts, you know, the squad and everybody else obviously in the town. But the core of it is really about the relationships between Colette and the girls, and then just amongst the girls. And again, I thought it was incredible. I'm definitely gonna pick up a hard copy of this book so that I have it. I thought Megan Abbott's writing was terrific. I haven't read anything else by her, but I'm certainly intrigued by her. But this was definitely a great read. January was not a slump of a month. Question number 4 is 366 days in a year. 3rd shelf, name the 6th book on that shelf and the 6th one after that. We're gonna take a field trip.
Okay, I'll try not to get too Blair Witch on you guys. So shelf 1, shelf 2, shelf 3. Welcome to the mess of the shelf that you never see. So I feel like this could go two different ways. So it says the 6th book. So we're going to do top down. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So book number 6 is Dark Places by Gillian Flynn. You guys know I love her. I read this book last year. This is all relative. It was my least favorite of her 4 books, but it's not bad, just not my most favorite of them all. And then from there, I should probably tell you guys what this one's about. This is about a woman who, her entire family was slaughtered, basically. You want to talk about graphic? And her brother was accused of doing it, and she was the sole survivor. And her name's Libby. And all these years later, she is sort of a fascination for the true crime folks. And there's a whole bunch of people who think her brother didn't do it. And there's a bunch of people who think he did. And her life is basically a hot mess, like all of Gillian Flynn's fabulous characters' lives are. And it is sort of about her journey, remembering that night. She is one of the people who testified against her brother, but she kind of starts to question her memory and everything else that was going on at the time. So it's an intriguing book, just not my favorite of all of Gillian Flynn's books, but that's all relative because I think that she is an amazing writer and a complete rock star. So then 6 books from there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let me move all my stuff out of the way. Wow, talk about a mess of a video. So 6 was Tammy Cohen's When She Was Bad. And I have no idea what this book is about, and I haven't read it. So let me not create a hot mess and let me pull it out. Hold on a sec. Okay, so When She Was Bad, as you can see on the front, it says, you see the people you work with every day, but what can't you see? So this, now that I read the back of it, this is about a bunch of people who work together and a new boss comes into town or into the office, as the case may be, and somebody dies and somebody's a killer. So I have absolutely no idea. This was one of those, I got this from Book Outlet, and I think this was one of those, like, you like this book, you'll like that book. This was during like a hardcore book buying spree haul binge thing I did back in 2018. And I haven't read it yet, but I know I've talked about this book before in the sense that for all you Buffy fans out there, season 2, episode 1 is called When She Was Bad. And that's probably what attracted me to the title, because I am that basic.
Question number 5 is leaping ahead. Name 4 books that you want to read by the next leap year, or name something on your bookish bucket list that you want to complete by the next leap year. So I feel like I could very easily just like rattle off a whole list of books. Like all of the books I've already talked about in my other videos from this year that I want to read, which I hope I get done by next leap year. But in particular, I would say I have gotten away from Marian Keyes, and I definitely want to get back to her books. I'm a couple books behind. I have, I want to say 3 on my shelf of hers that I haven't read. She's got another one coming out. I also have her nonfiction essay book on my shelf, which I haven't read yet. So I would love to get back into her because she was one of my favorite authors. Still is. I just have gotten away from reading her books. I had started rereading, try not to drop everything. I started rereading Patricia Cornwell's Kay Scarpetta series last year. So I read 2 of the book, the first 2 books. I'm reading them in order. And I would like to continue with this. I think maybe there's like 24 in the series. I should know. I've done this video. I've talked about these books so many times. I should know how many books there are in the series at this stage. I would like to say I could complete the reread of this series and finish the books I haven't gotten to yet in the series within the next 4 years. I feel like that sounds somewhat reasonable. So I have a whole bunch of these on the shelf that I would like to read, that I would like to get to. And then bookish goals, you also, if you follow me, you know what's coming. I would like to have obviously completed the book that I'm working on, have that get me an agent, wind up on a shelf somewhere, get published, and have written multiple other books since this book that I'm working on right now. And I would love for all of that to happen in the next 4 years. I would love to have 2 published books out in the world, in a bookstore, on Amazon, ebooks, libraries, whatever. Absolutely a bookish goal of mine every year. And obviously it hasn't happened yet, but that would absolutely be a dream of mine. How many times can you say absolutely? Question number 6 is Leapfrog, and it is name a book on your TBR that has green on it. We're gonna have to stand up for this one too.
Okay, the shame of showing you guys my shelves is proving that I really need to get it together and get these organized. So here, sort of in the yellow to green category, so a major book that I need to read that has green on the cover is Allison Galen's Never Look Back. This is another book I have talked about multiple times. Don't mind the baby picture of me. And this is 3 perspectives. It is 2 different timelines. There are kind of a man and a woman who supposedly died in a fire and murdered people. How much do you guys want to murder me trying to watch this video right now? Okay, so this is, like I said, 3 different timelines. So back in 1976, there were a guy and a girl who went on a killing spree in Southern California. And then I want to say there was like a big fire and they died, or did they? So there's a belief that the girl is still alive. And then in present day, there is a woman who's coping with some stuff with her husband. And then at the same time, she gets a call from someone who I want to say is the son of one of the victims from back in the 70s. And he's looking into those murders and how it all intersects. And we see the 1976 timeline, and then we see the 2 people in the present day. But I have read a few books by Allison Galen. I think she's an amazing writer, and I'm intrigued by this book. Just haven't read it yet because I have no excuse for that. And then some of these other green ones on my shelf here. Find You in the Dark. This is another one that I have talked about before that I for sure want to read. It is a guy, I want to say this is like a vigilante justice type of a thing. Yes, so this is a guy who's sort of on a revenge kick, and he has been buying illegally files about serial killers and unsolved murderers, and he basically investigates, finds the bodies to help convict some serial killers and like leads the police to it. I'm doing a bad job explaining it, but then he finds an old body and there's like a new body next to it. So that sounds all sorts of creepy. And then I think he kind of becomes implicated in what happens. So sounds nice and twisted. Right up my alley. And then I got this book a while ago, Rush. It is Sorority Rush, that kind of a thing. The book that I had been working on did have a sorority aspect to it, so I was kind of hunkering down with some sorority stuff. This is fiction. I just haven't read it yet, but it's supposed to be, I think, kind of fun-ish. I don't know that it's supposed to be like the dark side of Greek life, but I'm not 100% sure. Also a beautiful cover. So I've got that cooking for me. And then this is one of those Marian Keyes books that I haven't read yet, and I had started it at some stage of the game and then stopped, and it's an old one. This has been around, as you can see, isn't that awful? So you can see that I actually had tried to read it at some point. This one's from 2003, and this takes place at a magazine in Ireland, and it's sort of like the editor and her assistant, and this is kind of standard fare Marian Keyes, I would say, where it's going to be about relationships and people who are a little bit lost in life and trying to find their way. And I realize on camera this looks like it's yellow, but I swear it's like a lime green, and it's just it's not really doing so well on camera. But it is a green book, I swear. So this is one of those books that I definitely need to get back to, and I love me some Marian Keyes.
Question number 7 is bad luck. What bookish things do you steer clear from? So I have tried to read outside my comfort zone, to be more open-minded. I think I have been somewhat successful, but there are definitely some things that just don't appeal to me. So, like anything with war, I'm not interested in. Whether it is nonfiction, like romantic, historical romance, just any historical anything. I'm not big on period pieces. I'm not big on any wars, anywhere, any of it. On the page, happening at the time. It's just, I just have no interest in anything like that. I just really don't. And then I feel like I'm not huge on like medical focused books. I have read a handful of medical thrillers in my day. And well, I'm certainly fine with the autopsy and the medical examiner, like that part I'm fine with. But if it's like there's a plague, or there's like some virus that's taking out the entire world, or we are like super knee deep into the science of everything, that doesn't interest me. I sound highly intelligent, right? I don't like science. I don't like medicine. it doesn't appeal to me. And then I think, I'm trying to think what else. I'm trying to like picture all the sections in the bookstore. Nonfiction I'm pretty picky with. I won't read like any old thing, but there just has to be like some degree of appeal to me. So if there's something that just doesn't strike a chord, I'm not gonna read it just because like everybody else is reading it type of a thing, I guess I would say. I'm also not into anything like uber political. It just doesn't interest me. I can get enough of that on the news if I really want to talk about politics, but politics doesn't do much for me either. I'm also not big on comics. Like comics don't interest me at all. Graphic novels don't really interest me at all, but never say never, but as a whole, I would say I basically steer clear of all of those things. And then question number 8 is to tag 4 people. And since this is going up on leap day, I don't know, February 29th, I don't think anyone else is gonna wanna do it, but in the off chance that you guys do wanna do it, go for it, go nuts. No rules say that you can't put this up on March 1st if you want to, but yeah, so not tagging anyone in particular, and as usual, tagging everyone. So that's gonna do it for the leap year tag. Thank you guys, as always, for spending a bit of your time with me. I really appreciate it. And if you like this video, definitely give it a thumbs up because that is really helpful for me and it helps support my channel. And if you're new here and you haven't already subscribed, definitely do that too, because that also really helps to support me. And I'm really grateful for everyone who does spend a little bit of their time with me. But let me know, if you want to answer any of the leap year questions, feel free to do that down below and we can chit chat about some of your books. And I hope everyone is having a wonderful weekend. Whenever you're watching this, have a great rest of your day, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye, everybody.